So,
yeah, a lot of it's still classified to this day. People don't understand that the records aren't out there. And the mainstream media, and I think it was just the 10th anniversary, really tried to gloss over a lot of the things that had come out in the past and said that they weren't really depressed and they weren't really taking these drugs. I saw it in USA Today.
Well, no, Eric Harris was taking the drug, and it was known that he was taking the drug. I don't know why USA Today said that, but it was, untrue. He was, okay, but what happened to Eric Harris was he started taking Zoloft, which is an SSRI antidepressant, and he didn't feel well on it. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor took him off of it. And he came back 3 or 4 weeks later. This is in the Denver Post, by the way. This was in the Denver Post November 5th, 2002. Okay, so, the article is up there. Of course, also it's an SSRI story, and you can read it, go into the index, and it's about the 6th story down. Because it's school shooting. And so he started him on the SSRI Luvox. The doctor started Eric Harris on Luvox. And 3 experts, MDs, testified that it was a sign that Eric Harris was, and I have to explain all this some other time in a little bit, was bipolar instead of depressed. And so that's why he felt better when he went off the Zoloft and why he became such a maniac when he got on the Luvox. So, I know there was a book written saying he was a psychopath and all that, but this really wasn't true.
So, Betty, could you just speak up? I'm having
are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yes, I will speak up. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So you're telling me that Eric Harris was not depressed. He had bipolar disorder.
Well, that's what they call it. But see, here's the thing. What they're doing is they're giving all these people antidepressants, and then when they go insane on the drugs, instead of taking them off the drugs and saying you had a bad reaction to the drug, to the SSRI, no, instead they're saying, oh, you were bipolar. We made a mistake. We thought you were depressed. You were bipolar. Well, see, I don't know how old you are, but 25 years ago, bipolar illness, which is also known as manic depression, was an extremely rare illness. Less than 1% of the population had it. Today, because of the SSRIs and everybody taking them, massive amounts, 30 to 40, 50 million people in the United States have taken them, we have close to 6% of the population now diagnosed as either bipolar 1, manic depressive 1, or bipolar 2, and now they might even add bipolar 3. We have all these people diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. They took like Prozac or Zoloft or Cymbalta or Lexapro, and they got worse. And so people were saying, well, they went through the war, they were soldiers, so they have post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it's just making the situation worse. What I mean is it's really kind of a national tragedy of immense proportions in the sense that we never had these school shootings before. We have a lot of workplace violence. I don't know if you remember Michael McDermott's Edgewater Technology, where he went in and shot 7 people dead.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay, he was on a triple dose of Prozac.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I've noticed is they're saying
Lockheed
if their pills
Martin.
don't...
You remember when Lockheed Martin lost 6 people in the workplace violence?
No, I missed that one.
Okay, he was on Zoloft, that fella. And
well, I've noticed they want to, now instead of saying, oh, we did something wrong, they actually want to put people on more drugs. I've seen commercials for this drug called Abilify. If you're on, I think, Zoloft or Lexapro or Paxil.
Yeah,
and
now
you're still
Abilify is an antipsychotic, and let me explain what this is all about.
Okay.
Okay, they invented antipsychotics. The first one was called Thorazine, back in the 50s.
Yep.
And those were the older antipsychotics. Okay, then they came out with the new antipsychotics in about 1991 or 2. And these antipsychotics were different, and then they're half antidepressant and half antipsychotic. So it's just a real tragic. But anyway, the fact that they're half antidepressant means that the manufacturers of these new antipsychotics want to also advertise them as being an antidepressant. So they are trying to get approval from the FDA for it. Like Abilify is what they call an add-on. In other words, the ad will say, well, if your antidepressant isn't working or isn't doing what you want it to do, add on Abilify. Of course, what the people don't know is that they're taking an antipsychotic which is actually a very powerful drug that can cause, diabetes and weight gain and all kinds of. So anyway, so then they take a mood stabilizer and an antipsychotic, and usually a benzodiazepine, and they stay on their antidepressant. They end up in 5 or 6, 7 drugs, which, is going to shorten your life. You can't stay on that many drugs, especially if you start out when you're young.
It eats away your organs, doesn't it? I mean, I've heard people having like liver problems or kidney problems if they're on too many drugs. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Did you know that the average... I hate to say this because I don't want people to get worried, but are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, okay. I can hear some music in the background.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it on the other side. We only got about 10 seconds left in this segment. But let's talk about some of those things. I mean, liver damage, kidney damage, shortened lifespan. Is that what you really want? Do you want to get on these drugs? It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. Back after this.
The New World Order beast is genetically modifying your food, mixing vegetables with animals, and now experimenting with viruses. Without a long-term food solution, you will have just 2 options: starve, or surrender. All canned food supplies will eventually run out. What then? Grow your own healthy food and feed your family forever. SurvivalistSeeds.com is now the nation's largest bulk heirloom seed company, and it's owned by a real patriot, Big John Lipscomb. You can now have an infinite amount of healthy vegetables like a watermelon, a bundle of carrots, or tomatoes for a little more than a penny each. SurvivalistSeeds.com. And now you can go into business with Big John at SurvivalistSeeds.com by becoming an affiliate. See his link at SurvivalistSeeds.com.
We are back. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, joined by Betty Henderson of SSRIstories.com. And we were talking about the long-term side effects of these serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Forget about, the fact that you might go psychopathic or sociopathic or just go insane, do something violent, commit one of those acts. If you're able to get over that, what are some of the long-term side effects of these drugs?
Well, the SSRIs themselves are, of course, they cause hypertension. That's listed as frequent, in the physician's desk reference. So, of course, when you have high blood pressure, you're not going to, do quite as well. They also can cause hemorrhages in your body, which is not good, of course, just bleeding. And then they can cause heart attacks. That is listed as infrequent, but still it's not listed as rare, heart attacks. People that take antidepressants, they don't live as long. I mean, it's beginning to come out. Especially, usually after they can't take an antidepressant too long because everybody gets so agitated. Most people do, maybe 2 out of 5 get agitated. And so then they start going on benzodiazepines, and maybe that doesn't work, and so then they get on the antipsychotics, and then so pretty soon they're on 5 or 6 drugs, and then I guess people say they're mentally ill or something, and the next thing you know, their lifespan is 15 to 25 years less than the ordinary American.
15 to 25 years left for taking a cocktail of drugs for a few years.
Usually the problem is you can't get off of them. I mean, see, this is what I want to emphasize, is that this withdrawal is extremely difficult and extremely dangerous. There's people who've been on them who are just, 5 and 6 years, they're on maybe 6 drugs. And I know a woman who was on 6 drugs, and it took her 6 years to get off of them. But she had to do it that way because when she stopped abruptly, I had convulsions and seizures. And I mean, it's just, unbelievable.
So this is really likening to somebody who's, say, a heroin addict trying to kick the habit.
Probably worse.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are reported some of the really hardcore drugs that are very tough to get off of?
Well, they're all the SSRIs are hard to get off of, And I can't. Paxil and Effexor seem to be the worst as far as the withdrawal, but they all have bad withdrawal syndrome. And if you're going to try to get off of it, in our cover page it says to go off over a period of a year or longer, and do this under the supervision of a qualified specialist. This is find a doctor who understands withdrawal, who can help you get off. See, a lot of times people say, I'm going to quit taking my Prozac, and then, like a week later or whatever, 2 weeks later, they feel terrible, and they go to the doctor, and he says, well, that's your depression. Of course, the problem is sometimes they didn't start with depression, Like we had a 15-year-old girl who was given Zoloft for warts, and she killed herself, But, of course, there's a black box warning for those 24 years old and under for suicidality. But, okay, what was your question?
Well, we were just talking about, the horrible side effects and how hard they were to kick. And then we were talking about which ones were the toughest to kick. And you said that Paxil seemed to be the worst to kick. And then you started to get into the fact that, a lot of people are committing suicide while they're trying to kick these drugs. My question to you is, as people are kicking these drugs, why are we even giving kids these drugs in the first place? You said a 15-year-old girl. I mean, I would say that's ill-advised to give a 15-year-old girl something with a black box warning that says suicide possible.